Welcome to Costly Conversations. My name is Aaron, your host, and today we have a very interesting conversation with somebody who I admire and respect a whole lot, and apparently so do a lot of you. So today we're going to be talking to Chris from the 1911 Syndicate. Pretty excellent YouTube channel. Like if you ever seen anything that they do, they're making movies over there. I'm not even joking. There's a lot of people who you say, oh man, they make like really cool content. It looks good. We're talking like full cinematics, color grading just to the nines, and because they're running a duo, it's two hosts of 1911 Syndicate. You have a lot of back and forth banter and just the kind of interactions that you want to see amongst friends, and I think they do that really really well. Interesting thing about what they do is it seems like they're actually a real estate brokerage or real estate agents of sorts. So that's weird. But I do want Chris to kind of dive into that and let us know exactly what that's all about. And really, the main thing that we will be talking about today, just so you know, is what does it mean to sell out as a YouTuber, as a firearms-based YouTuber or gun tuber, as we are affectionately called, and all those things. So if you are ready to hop into it, so am I. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're sharing this out because we want as many people as possible to know that we're here and we're doing this thing. And of course, I'm sure Chris has some good things to say, and we want a lot of people to hear what he has to say. So let's go ahead and dive into it right now. Chris, welcome to the show.
Dude? How's it going?
Welcome. Hey, it's going. It's a Sunday, so there's a lot of moving parts. For me, we just got back from church, trying to get the kids down, trying to get in here. Make sure everything looks okay. And of course, now we're here. Now we're talking to the legendary, the Beard himself,
Stupid.
Chris from 1911 Syndicate. No, I was just talking to freaking John from oh my gosh, the Gun Collective, and
Yeah,
he was like, "Oh man, I love that guy." I was like, "Of course you do. How can you not? How can you not?"
dude, very kind of you, John. Like the first time I met John was at a event, True Shot Gun Club. They're a big
Yeah,
online ammo dealer. They had a big
yeah,
event last year, and I'd never met John, but like we kind of linked eyes and walked over, and both of us are bigger dudes. Just gave
yeah.
us like big old man hug, and I was like, dude, it's nice to finally meet you. And he's a sweetheart, man. I'm going through like career stuff in the gun industry, and John's someone I call for advice. He's
That's right.
awesome.
That's
I
right.
love that guy.
I mean, I actually just gave him a call the other day, and it's weird how I don't know if he does this with everybody or if it's just the type of friendships or relationships you kind of develop with certain people that you jive with. But I had just some questions about how to interact with a certain brand, and he was like, "Hey, dude, I'm on a walk. Just go ahead and call me." Gave me his phone number. Like, I'm not used to that. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, cool. And he's like, just talking to me, just chopping it up, being like, yeah, I wouldn't do it like that. And he's got so much experience in this space. Like if John's like, don't do this, probably don't do it. And if it goes badly, that's your funeral. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I like John's ability to kind of see like 30,000 foot view
Mm-hmm.
because of where he is in the gun industry and kind of help give advice is like bar none. Like I've called him 3 or 4 times this last week just with some career stuff I'm going through, and solid human. And I think he would help anyone, but I think that there's a difference. Like if he, do we curse on this?
I mean, you can share however you like to share. I don't care.
If he messes with you, he messes with you. Like you're a boy, and I don't want to
Yeah.
get you
Yeah.
demonetized, right, for cursing in
Right.
the first few minutes.
Right. No, I got you. And we just want to say thank you so much to the audience who's tuning in with us right now and those who are going to tune in later. We definitely appreciate you being here live. And of course, if you're on the podcast side, one of the best ways to interact with our guest is to go ahead and hop in with us as we're live streaming, because we're going to take some of a few minutes at the end of the show and try to open it up for audience questions if there are any. So that's
Is
that.
there a way I can see that chat, or is that only on your end?
It should be showing up as it generates. You should be able to see stuff
On YouTube or on this?
on the program. It
Okay,
should be
cool.
in there when it starts to populate. There should
Okay.
be a little delay though, so yeah, that is what it
Okay.
is. That said, I know we've been talking about John. We're here to talk about you and what you guys are doing at 1911 Syndicate, and
Yeah, man.
what does it mean to sell out or to be ethical. We were talking, well, before we go too far, give people like a 1 minute synopsis of who Chris is,
Sure. Yeah.
and
Got
include
into
your
gun
height.
industry work. Say again.
I said, and include your height, of course.
Oh, 6'4". And I cut my beard, so I feel like Samson because I had like 14-inch hair and like my beard was 14 inches longer,
Yeah,
and I
it's long.
cut it. Yeah, bad choices were made, mistakes were made. It's not gonna happen again. I feel like Samson, dude.
Right. Just feel
Yeah,
10
right.
pounds lighter.
Yeah, 10 pounds lighter and way weaker. Just anyways. Yeah, I got in the industry like 10, 12 years ago working behind a gun counter at a Glock specific gun store. And that's where like my love of Glock, like, I don't know, 10x, man, because I just love Glock. But from there, worked at a couple shops, helped manage a couple shops. And then about a year and a half ago, I started working for a suppressor company in the industry as like my first big industry job, if you will, and no longer work for them. And so, yeah, just kind of been in the industry in a couple different ways. And then me and Jake started the YouTube channel to do real estate, but also review guns and gear. So,
Yeah. So when you said, do real estate, that is, I think, where a lot of people are it's gonna either go over people's heads or they're gonna just start looking real cross-eyed at you, like, what? Like, real
yeah,
estate? What does real estate have to do with guns? And if you do a little bit of research, you kind of start to pull some of these threads together, like, oh, okay, it's kind of a more specific or more niche market you guys are targeting. But can you dive into that just a little bit to let people know what in the world does real estate have to do with guns and firearms, YouTubing, and whatever it is else you guys do?
sure. Yeah, I think so. Jake moved from LA to Utah a couple years ago. We met at a firearms training course actually, and hit it off, and we're just good friends and kept in touch after that. Um, when he moved to Utah, he wanted to start another business, and so he started looking into real estate. I was getting out of my former career. I used to train canines, and so he was like, "Hey, I'm starting this real estate thing. We're going to review guns and gear as a niche way to market towards kind of the audience that we only want to do real estate for." So it's real estate for firearms enthusiasts, first responders, military, law enforcement, and just outdoorsmen in general. So very niche, but normal real estate marketing, you're like knocking doors and putting on flyers and wearing a suit, and that's not me, bro. Like that is not anything that I want to be a part of. So we use the channel and gun and gear reviews to just build our audience. And if you happen to need real estate help, we're there. I'm licensed in Utah. He's in Arizona. Or, sorry, other way around. I'm in Arizona. He's in Utah. And then we have affiliates that are part of the syndicate all over the country, typically located around major military bases. So if you have a guy changing duty stations, we have someone that can help facilitate it on both ends. And we've done an international deal, which is pretty cool. And we got reps in, I don't know how many states now, 30, 40 states probably. So,
Wow. So this thing is actually sounds like a very viable business slash strategy for promoting said business.
yeah. Yeah, it's really starting to pick up. I've had a couple deals here in the last couple months. Jake has been steady for, several months now. And then there's something in real estate for referrals. So like if I have a guy in North Carolina that watches the channel and he's like, "Hey, I want to support the channel by using you guys as real estate, but you're in Arizona." Well, then we call our, North Carolina affiliate or wherever this guy is located. He helps them, and then we get a referral fee for that. And all that money goes back into producing YouTube content. So,
Which is crazy expensive. Like if you
oh,
really think about it, putting together, I mean, even I'll tell you what, Mr. Guns and Gear and somebody else literally just totaled a camera. Ooh, the humble marksman shot his camera. Freaking
ah,
David. What are you doing? But he put that video out, I think on his Patreon, but he let me see it. It's because he's that guy. And I'm like, how did you shoot your camera? I think really the camera survived, but the LCD got destroyed, so he's gonna probably need to use a freaking monitor. Anyways, the
Yeah.
it gets really expensive. We're talking like two, three, $4,000 camera bodies, depending on how crazy you want your stuff to look and be able to manipulate the footage.
Yeah.
And you guys, obviously, I mean, I don't know what you guys are running in regards to hardware, but your ability to make your content look like super cinematic is. I don't know if there's anybody else consistently doing it on your level.
Thank you.
And I'm I'm like, man, is that really worth it? Can you put a more low lift video together and get the same results? I mean, I kind of go back and forth. Some of my more well performing videos are the ones that I didn't even try on. Not to
Yeah.
say I don't try, but I was like, hey, let's just do one time I was doing a video on the Hellcat and I said, yeah, hey, let me just do my best Colion Noir impression. And the video did really well. Like it's still doing pretty well for us. I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
wait, I didn't even try. Like I just, shot a few rounds and said, I like it. And then that was the video. Did super well. I'm like, what is going on? But if I spend like 5 hours, on the range getting stuff together, and then another 40 hours in an editing bay, just wasting time, yeah, it's not going anywhere. So
Dude,
I don't
it's
know.
tough. And like, our videographer Crispy and Jake admittedly are 99% of the equation. Like I'm the guy that shows up and I lift heavy things and like do the sweat equity, right? Like that's what I'm good at. And there is a clear difference like when I do a video and when Jake does a video because the production is like I'm not Jake's brain. He's like the Steven Spielberg of gun YouTubers, man. Like we just filmed content on the Salt Flats. I got home yesterday. So we were on the Utah Salt Flats and I mean, Jake has been working on this shot with the music timed up and everything that we filmed for like 3 months, dude. Like, he's well in advance and further ahead than I am. But yeah, they're a crazy team. I'm blessed to be a part of it. I don't really bring a lot to the table, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, well, it looks like you have some friends with guys like Simon Says Train. They're in the chat right now, and I'm glad you're making good impressions with my people.
Oh yeah,
Tony's that dude. I love Tony. We got to bring him back on the show, but we say that.
dude. No, yeah. What's up, guys? Let's see. Saw him at Shot Show. That's what's up, dude. Yeah,
Yeah,
hell
yeah.
yeah.
He's definitely one of those guys. He's been in the industry forever, but
He looks from the picture that popped up for like the 2 seconds. He looks super familiar. So yeah, it must have been Shot Shows. So
yeah, yeah. You'll know him when you see him. He's kind of hard to miss. But how long have you been making content versus actually been working? I think I know you said you've been actually like physically working in the industry for a while. But what's that? I guess is it delta? Is that the term that we like to use on the amount of time versus the other time?
oh yeah. Industry for like 8 years, content now for about 4 years. Yeah.
Okay,
So
so some time under the belt. Yeah, a
yeah,
lot of people started.
I don't know if I make content. Like I just kind of do my own thing and then Crispy and Jake church it
Yeah.
up to content. But yeah, I guess if that's content, sure.
I was talking with Mike from Tactical Considerations.
hmm
For those who aren't following him, he makes really good content. Go check him out.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need to sell his content. I think it sells itself. But he was, I guess, doing a cameo, like a guest appearance in one of Administrative Results' videos. Who, if you want to talk about movies, this man is making movies. It's
Yeah.
crazy. He's such a goofball, but he's like having fun, and I think that's one of the important things.
Yeah.
And oh man, what was I saying about that? Lost my train of thought.
It's
But
all good.
it's really cool to see people. No, here's what it was. He was saying that you walk in, do this, do that, do this, do that. They say, okay, now stand here. Okay, now fall down, and then they put it all together in post, and it's just like, wow, movie magic.
Yeah, right.
You don't even. It's like, well, did I do all that? Yeah, yeah, you kind of did, but editing.
Editing.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And dude, that's a big part of it. Like, dude, our editor's been kind of with us from day one. He was part of a group of kids that were doing videography, and he was going to school for it, and then was like, I can learn all this on YouTube, and like dropped
pretty
out of school.
much,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
dude, he's not wrong. And so like Jake Jake found him because he went to like the local videography place at Salt Lake University or whatever the college is, and just put up like a flyer looking for videographers, right? And he had a couple people try out, and Crispy's kind of been there from day one, and he's grown to what he is today. And he's done stuff for Cabot guns, Alchemy weapon systems, RDR Kydex. Like it's opened up his own little gun YouTube brand,
Mm-hmm.
and which is awesome. I mean, the kid's
Are we
so
talking about the same crispy or a different crispy?
yeah, same Crispy
Okay.
that we always use for all our videography.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Got you.
he's now been hired to do a bunch of stuff for other channels too, and so
That's
which is
awesome.
awesome. And we just tell him like, remember who Daddy is, right? Like, don't when
All
you
right.
when you go big, just remember who brought you to the game, and that's Jake. I just stand there with a beard, but
Stand there and look pretty.
right?
All right. Well, hey, let's dive into the good stuff, which is, I suppose, potentially the more controversial piece, but it doesn't have to be. I think
Sure.
telling the truth doesn't have to be a bad thing, or at least sharing your opinion, because we might even have some divergent opinions in this topic
Yeah.
specifically. But what to you, and I guess to your the syndicate of content creators, what do you guys see as ethical when it comes to, or I'll pose it like this: what does it mean to sell out? Because I know when you first came into the space, you and I were talking. You said like, "Hey, I more or less got started with the understanding that there was a lot of people making content on products that I wanted to buy, and you were misled more or less." Can
Yeah.
you maybe break that down a little bit and tell us kind of your motivation for being here beyond that?
Sure. Yeah. When Jake and I started this, the idea was one, obviously marketing for the real estate side, right? But I'd been in the game for a little bit at that point, just on the gun counter side, and some channels do this, some channels don't, and I'll caveat all this with we all got to pay our bills, right? Um, but I think a big sellout thing is if you're pushing a product and saying it's good when it's clearly shit because you're just getting a paycheck. I have a problem with that because especially say you have 100,000, 200, 400,000 followers. How many of those people are going to go spend their money that they've worked hard for, right? Working a job 40, 60, 80 hours a week on a product that they trust you as a good product because you're on YouTube, which supposedly gives you credibility right out the gate. I could argue that. Um, and they waste this money. A great example is Axel Ear Pro. Jake and I shit on them on the channel all the time. But I bought Axel Ear Pro before the channel, and they didn't even make it out of my house before they broke. Then we
Oh my
got sent
god.
some when we started the channel. Those ones didn't make it out of my house. And Jake called me and was like, hey, this Ear Pro broke, and I haven't even taken it to the range. This is trash. And like, we're pretty open and honest about that. So then when you see people that are saying it's the best, man, I have some issue with that, right? Now it's $35 headset. Like, is it that much money? That's not the principle. It's the principle that you're using your name and reach to say a product is good when it's not, right? Now, flip side of that, we all got to pay our bills. And if you say, hey, we got sent this product from a sponsor, here's what the product is, check it out. Not endorsing it, not saying it's bad, but almost like an ad read, like the Olympics are coming up. You're gonna see all the Olympians saying McDonald's is their favorite fast food, right? Dude,
That's
I've met
hilarious.
I've met one Olympian, and that's Michael Phelps. He can eat McDonald's because that dude burns like 40,000 calories a year, right? The other Olympians have a very strict diet that they follow to a T. Now, they're getting paid for an ad read from McDonald's, but they still got to pay their bills. I think we're all smart enough to know most Olympians aren't just sitting on the couch eating McDonald's every day, right?
Yeah,
Taking that to the
absolutely.
gun space, as long as you're honest about it, I don't see a problem with that, right? Because you're saying, hey, I got to make money. I gotta be able to provide for this channel. Here's a product from a sponsor. We did get paid for it. I'm not telling you it's good or bad, but this is a product. Check it out. So there is a line there, and we all do have to make money. But when you're blatantly saying a product is good and it's not, man, I have a problem with that, dude. And it's because I was the guy that wasted a lot of money from YouTubers telling me a product was good. You know?
Right. And I think sometimes when we have like a personal experience that motivates us, like that motivating force in our life, like I feel for a lot of the people in the anti-gun space who they literally lost a child, or even the David Hoggs of the world, who I have less sympathy for him specifically, just because he is so ridiculous. But
Ugh,
there's a lot of people in his position who they make it their personal mission to try to limit or alleviate or expel from the world the thing that caused them tremendous pain and
sure,
distress. And I can understand that, and I do have a certain level of sympathy for it. Not saying
sure.
that I feel for the anti-gunners of the world, but
You're a human being.
right. There's a
Yes.
certain level of empathy that you ought to have when someone says, "Hey, I went through something really, really, really tough. Like I actually went through something tough, and I'm working through it, but I want to help other people not experience what I went through." I get that. And so for yourself, when I went on that diatribe to say, I understand your mindset, and I know for myself, I go through it all the time. I'm just like, okay, well, I'm trying to build up, my production company on the side. We do a lot of freelance stuff, and I hire freelancers to do certain projects. And if a company's like, hey, I want you to do this project, and I want you to bring your absolute best, well, our absolute best is to use the power of our production company to, get my favorite freelancers in, make sure they're rocking their best gear, and none of that is free. Like the guys that you want behind the camera to get to nail the perfect shot, they're not doing that for free. you know, the
Nor
YouTube
should
channel,
they.
no, nor should they. And I think the audience and I don't want to crap on anybody's audience or my audience or anybody else's, but oftentimes they don't quite kind of see the nuts and bolts of what it takes to run an operation like this. And most people aren't backstopped, kind of like 1911 Syndicate is, where it's like, well, this is really just a marketing engine to sell homes, which is one of the most lucrative businesses in the United States of America. And I'm not trying
I
to say
must
that
be
you
doing
guys
it
are
wrong,
filthy rich,
but I hear
right?
that it's lucrative.
All right. Right. And it's like, okay, well, I think you can start to make the dollars make sense at a certain level, but also on the other side, I would be terribly disappointed, and I think you probably wouldn't be able to sleep at night if for some reason you hit your head on the ground and decided to wake up tomorrow and say, "Hey, Axel Earbud or whoever it is that you know you have an axe to grind against because they're making a bad product. I see you're making a bad product, but if you send me like $1,500 or $2,000 or whatever the fee is, I'll tell people that it's actually pretty decent, you know, or that
Dude,
this is what I use." It's like,
yeah.
sure,
And on the flip side too, yeah, dude, that oh, we're gonna get into it here. There's some recent product reviews from some big names that have come out lately where like I reviewed the same product and I got the lemon, or maybe they got
right,
one that was hand fit, hand produced, really kind of, oh, this is going to a YouTuber, let's make sure it's mint, you know?
right. It needs to
And
rhyme.
then
Yeah.
right, and we'll just talk about it. Like we released a video yesterday on the Terran Tactical Pit Viper. Okay.
Hmm.
Every review I saw of it was it's the hottest thing since sliced bread for $7,000.
It's a
Okay.
lot of money for a Glock.
$7,000 for a 2011,
Oh,
right?
excuse me.
No, you're good. You're good. He went from, what was it, HKs to Glocks to a 2011 to a 2011 in the series.
Hmm.
Um, we're the 1911 Syndicate. Jake is a 1911, 2011 aficionado slash whore, if we just want to call it that. Okay.
Right,
He has entry level 2011s, which start around, 2000. And he has custom 2011s that he waited years for that are $10,000.
my
Right.
God. It's
Okay.
crazy how long it takes for people to produce them. Like I was talking to a Wilson guy, and he was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, sometimes it can take us like years to put out a gun, and we're trying to do things to make it months." But I'm like, "You guys are people buy Wilsons. Like it's I don't know
Yeah.
why, but I mean I know why, but they're expensive, and
Yeah.
there's a certain pride in ownership." But you're talking about the Pit Viper,
Yeah. Yeah. And so we reviewed that gun, and Jake knows a thing or two about 2011s. And like, dude, that gun is maybe worth $2,000 with the stamp of Terran that makes it 7,000. And like, bro, the back checkering and straps don't line up to the grip safety. Like they're not blended. There's hard 90-degree angles. It's a plastic grip. It doesn't come cut for a dot. Like, if you start looking at other producers, Infinity, which is, in my opinion, the Ferrari of 2011s,
Right. That's the premier brand.
dude, you're gonna spend 6 to 8 thousand depending on what you want on that gun. It is hand fit, hand finished, as close to perfect as you can get, and that's what you're paying $7,000 for. At the end of the day, the Pit Viper is still a production pistol. Now, I don't have a problem with a YouTuber saying it's the hottest thing since sliced bread, because I'm getting paid to say that, guys. I don't have a problem with that. Like, if you're honest with it
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, look, guys, I got to pay the bills. This was sent to me. This is what I think about it. This is, what I'm paid to say. Cool. Like, if you're honest with it, you know, as long as you're honest. But if you're saying something's good and it's not, and you're telling people this who are going to go spend $7,000 on this gun, like, I'm sorry, man, I have a moral problem with that, right?
Right. No,
Because for
I can.
$7,000, they can get a perfect custom gun, not a production, semi, not very well fit gun.
So in the specifically in like YouTube tech space and YouTube like video production camera space, there is what do they call it? GAS, gear acquisition syndrome,
Okay.
and we in the gun space we kind of feed into the cycle of consumerism, and it's a job. Like,
Yep.
hey, you want to know about this thing? I will tell you about it. I'm not saying that you must buy it, that your life will be better if you have it, and some things yes, but I'm not saying that explicitly. And it's interesting to see kind of how much weight your words have
Yes.
with people's buying decisions, and how people will make poor financial decisions, like actually they don't have $7,000-8,000 to spend. They've got another, they've got probably $30,000 in credit card debt that they're chipping away at, and they're like,
Yeah.
well, maybe I do need these nods. And people have to make their own choices, and I'm not saying that we are responsible for people's bad financial decisions. I'm never going to financially recover from this. That meme from Tiger King, but
Yeah.
it to promote something that's not actually like up to your level of desire or your personal standard. And who knows, you might have got one that just sucks somehow. But how likely is that? What are the odds? What does QC look like? Is Terran tactical? And I've met some of the people who work there. I like them. We're all fine and dandy. But if this is the case, and you got the gun, and I don't think they're pushing out so many guns that they can't look at the gun and say this one's not good. Sorry guys, this is we're gonna have to write this one off.
It's a production gun. So that's a whole other side of it too. Is our friend Calvin, who owns OMG Tacos in
Hmm.
Texas.
Yeah, Calvin's out here. Yeah.
Calvin's the man, dude. I love that guy. But he's like a 2011 whore, dude. He
Oh
has
yeah.
all of them. And like all of them, dude.
Yeah.
And he just bought that off the shelf at a shop. Now, I've seen two others at shops here in Arizona that look identical as far as fit and finish.
Oh.
And that's what I'm getting at, is like they're not purposely putting out guns that are not finished properly. Those are the level of the gun that
That's the
they're then
standard.
pushing for 7,000,
Yeah.
right? And like that's a whole other thing too. Like if they knew it was going to a YouTuber, would it have been finished better? And I have a problem with that, dude.
Hmm.
Like just and I don't know if other YouTube channels do this or not, but when certain new guns get released and all the YouTubers say it's good and they had no problem with it, and then that gun has issues on the commercial market, to me that raises a lot of red flags.
It's a
And
ton of red flags. Springfield is the main culprit in that more recently, and I've gotten a deal off of a gun one time with Springfield. They didn't send me anything for free, but they gave me a little discount. Very
sure,
kind. And I'm always willing to get another discount or free gun or whatever. I
sure,
don't send it, buddy. Like I'll give it a
just
fair shake.
it.
I,
Yeah,
I'm saying this to say, be fair. Whether it's fairly critical or fairly high on something, just be fair. And it is a little concerning, and people, I talked to Humble Marksman about this one time, and he had his thoughts, but reality says like, hey, if you send out YouTuber guns and all the YouTubers who got theirs pre-embargo, it's great. It comes in a special box that customers aren't getting. Presentation is everything. And then the YouTubers who aren't connected with you went out and bought one, and maybe 3 out of 5 of them are having issues. And then some consumers are coming out and saying that YouTubers are lying. That's a problem, because now, whether you cherry picked a gun or just had somebody pick one up, slide check it, maybe put 5 rounds down range and say, hey, it works. I'm not saying don't do that, but it puts people like myself or yourself or whoever is actually getting a gun sent in a really bad spot, because we could be telling the truth 100%, but now we look stupid.
Yes, and that we've kind of had that, like in the Pit Viper video, dude. In the comments, such and such YouTuber said it's the best thing since sliced bread, and I'm like, that may be their opinion. Another side of it, they may be getting paid for that. Another side of that, they may have gotten it free to say that. Like, I don't know, and I'm not one to judge. And how they want to run their business is how they want to run their business. Yeah, Obsidian.
Yeah, yeah, that's my guy.
But again, like, you have a responsibility, man. Like, we buy about 90% of the stuff that's on the channel, dude. I have dumped my life savings into this, so I can tell people this is my honest opinion, right? That gun behind me, Cobalt Kinetic 16-inch, we did a review on that. That gun was sent to me for the review, and I made it very clear, hey, Cobalt sent me this gun. There was no money exchanged. And some people get mad about that. Like, oh, well, you're biased out the gate. And I'm like, I could see that. But what if your channel is known for being honest no matter what, and we'll tear your shit apart, Now, can I guarantee that's the level of quality that all Cobalts come in, that they didn't, like, put a little extra love into that? I can't guarantee that. But because I work in the industry, and I've been to several events where, Cobalt was there, and I got to run a plethora of their guns, I've never had an issue with it. And I bring that up in the video, right? So there's some layers to all of this. But at the end of the day, you have a responsibility to not waste people's money, And I think I'm not saying I'm the moral high horse on this by any means. But, like, dude, I've wasted a lot of money from YouTubers telling me stuff was good, and I refuse to do that,
No, I 100% get that. And I was talking to Mike and Jonathan one time, from Tactical Toolbox and Tactical Considerations. A lot of tactical guys out there. A lot of tactical. I'm teasing
great way
them.
for brands to grow quick if you just throw tactical in there.
Right. I mean, people are gonna. It's one of those sexy buzzwords, which it works. I'm not mad at it, but it's funny. It's funny.
Yeah.
I'll say this: they were saying that really, no matter what you do, because there's guys who they make a ton of money on affiliates, so Tactical Toolbox. The temptation is to talk about something that maybe has a high yield for the affiliate payouts, and to say like, hey, try this out, and maybe it's mid, to borrow the language of the kids, right?
Sure.
Or maybe it's like just okay, but it's not really that great. But you can make a video on it, and because you go into the dashboard for your affiliate program, it's like, okay, we have 15% commission on this one, but that other product is only a 5 or 10% commission. Like, well, wouldn't it be better for you as a producer of content to say, I'm going to prioritize this, even though it's just okay? And I'm not saying he does that. I do not believe he does that, because he has a brand to protect. But just for those who are coming in who think of YouTube as a way, I could make a little money, or maybe they're in a bad place and they're like, maybe I ought to, try to push out some more of this. You become a content mill versus somebody who's truly in it to create content that you find to be awesome, creating the content you want to make for the people that you want to benefit from your content, right? So that's just a thought.
You hit the nail on the head. Sorry.
No. I was saying that's just a thought that I had.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head too, because like, there's probably certain things we could have done to grow the channel faster. And trust me, we have many talks about this, and we always come to the conclusion like, oh, well, that feels a little bit like selling out, or that feels a little bit disingenuous to why we started this, right? Now, again, not disparaging anyone who does that or talking trash on anyone who does that. Like, dude, we got to pay our bills. One thing that I have noticed a trend in our content, at least, is that authenticity is starting to come through the screen as more and more channels get a little bit bigger and the reach gets a little follower for like the little bit bigger for the gun tuber space, right?
Hmm.
Um, we've had several comments like, hey, I go to this channel for fun, entertaining stuff, but I don't really take what they're saying serious. I come to your channel because I know you guys are going to shoot it straight and tell us your honest answer. And like,
Right.
dude, we can have both. We can have both, man. I think if you're clear about that in your channel and your delivery, I think that's what matters, right? Again, saying actual ear pro is the hottest thing since sliced bread, man, it's just not the case, right? But again, if you make that clear with people, awesome. Also, the viewers are starting to find the authenticity in content,
Hmm.
and viewers will be able to pick that up. Like, oh, I think he's getting paid for that, or hey, like they might have got paid for this, but they still gave their honest opinion. I think viewers are very, very keen on being able to figure that out nowadays, just because there's so many people doing gun content. You know?
Right. And one of my favorite YouTubers, and I'm not saying anything bad, guys, so please don't come for my neck. In fact, come for my neck because it's good for the algorithm. Anyways, one of my favorite YouTubers, I got a chance to meet him once, and I'm real friendly with his video guy, and he's kind of taught me a lot of what I know. So I suppose, in a way, that's why I've been called the budget Coleon Noir or dollar store noir or something like that. I don't know. I don't think that's fair. I have my own style,
I think
but
it's just because you're black, right?
right.
I'm just
I'm saying
kidding.
no. I think that's hilarious. But I was like, I was telling my wife, I was like, hey, yo, this person on Reddit just said I'm a budget Coleon Noir. Is it? You think it's because I'm black? And she's like, really? Okay. Well, he's really good at what he does, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, there's nothing wrong with that. But
Yeah,
point, reason I brought him up is, I think it's if you pay close enough attention, you can tell that he has certain partnerships with certain companies like USCCA, which he'll go out and make some content with them, or if you go to the USCCA convention, he'll be in line and you can go do a meet and greet, stuff like that. Like he'll be there. FN America, Fabrique Nationale. He's got kind of like a weird, like incestuous relationship with them, if you ask
yeah,
me. That's just how I feel. And so, go to freaking Shot Show. He'll be at the FN booth, doing, shaking hands and, kissing babies, right?
sure.
And so things like that happen. And then he'll get probably like 10 FN reviews done in a year, at least. And you're like, okay, I know they sent the gun. You're not reviewing guns that you weren't sent. Like, there's no point in you doing that, because you have so much, I suppose, so much work to do, and so many companies vying for your attention because you have one of the biggest platforms that is making more serious gun content. I'm not
Sure.
saying he's burning them to the ground, but it's not. Oh, can I take this 22 and shoot through 500,000 jelly beans? Like it's not. It's not Demolition Ranch, right?
Right.
That's fun content. This is more gun content.
Sure.
Point of what I'm trying to say is this: recently you've gone through the channel, the comment section in one of his videos, and it's like, man, another FN video. The baby scar. Are you sure? You sure you like it, bro? Because you know that the 7.5-inch barrel is just stupid, and you think, well, is it meant to be suppressed? Like, is that like the default? How you're actually supposed to run it, and does that make a difference? All the different things, but it's like the you wonder how much negativity you're allowed to say when you're in long-term contracts with big brands like that. That's what I'm trying to say is how
Yeah.
negative can you be? And for me, I don't have any problem with taking money from a brand as long as it's explicitly stated in writing that I can be as negative as I want to be as long as I'm being fair and not saying untrue things, right?
Sure. Sure.
You
And
know.
and also, whether you do this or not, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but also just clarifying that for your audience, right? Like again, I was sent that
Exactly.
rifle to
I think that's
review,
true.
right?
Hmm.
I was sent that rifle to review, and Similarly, when I worked for a manufacturer in the suppressor industry recently, like I started working for them because I reviewed their products on the channel and I believed in them.
Hmm.
So that's something a little different, right? Like I first got in touch with the product, fell in love with it, believe in it, and then worked for them. So there will I have some bias after that? Well, sure, but that's because I believe in the product, which is why I attach my name to the company, right?
Yeah.
That's slightly different than a contractual obligation to do 12 FN guns a year or whatever, right? And again,
Right.
I don't care that Colion does that. Like he's got to pay his bills. I don't know how that guy has time for being a lawyer and a gun tuber and like all the stuff he does. But like at the end of the
Yeah.
day, you as a viewer can also kind of figure that out nowadays, you know?
Yeah. And you hope so. And if you are maybe still kind of naive in that, if you go to the comment section, people will kind of open your eyes to that a little bit. I
Yeah.
think did he do a walkthrough video recently on Instagram, where he posted it in both? He made like a custom, I think it was like a PPK or something like that, or whatever.
Yes, it's the final release of the PPK, some model of it. Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And somebody was like, sorry. One of my sponsors, Obsidian Tactics, was like, by the way, Aaron is only allowed to say nice things about us.
Contractually obligated.
Contractually obligated. Blink twice if you're in danger.
Right? Help me.
Send help. Anyways, but somebody was like, oh, because they brought him to the factory and they basically built his own custom gun with his logo on the side. And he's like, yeah, well, obviously you're going to only say nice things about a gun that you were paid to review. I'm like, I don't even know if that's the same thing, because that's his custom gun. He's not going to say anything overly negative. He might say like, man, I wish maybe we could have did this instead, but like, he's going to have a special ultra bias connection to that gun, and I don't think that's fair to rag on him about that. Maybe you feel differently, but
No, again, as long because we can see that, right? Like you
right,
can see the progression of that. So like now if he came out and blatantly was like best thing ever, screw everything else, yada 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 yada, like a little over the top, I'd be
right,
like, hey bro, like come on, you know? But again, I'm not judging. I'm not the moral high ground. You got to pay your bills, but your audience will see that and that could negatively affect you down the road, right?
yeah, and I hope that maybe some younger YouTubers in the space, people maybe around my age in the game, can see this and really ask themselves questions, because you have to come up with you have to know your lines. Like if you don't have a line or a standard, you'll have crossed that line or gone beyond your standard and not even knowing. And you'll look back and you're like, oh, that's not really something I really wanted to do. That's not a boundary I really wanted to have when it comes to working with companies. And speaking of selling out, and not necessarily selling out, but working with companies and brands, a lot of companies almost feel like try to take advantage of smaller content creators, YouTubers, guys who, they're in that one or maybe sub thousand or below
Yeah.
10,000 subscriber base. And it's like, yeah, we're going to send you this really cheap product and that's kind of it. Like,
Yeah.
and really it doesn't justify the amount of work that they're able to put into it. And there's no promise of like, hey, we want to at least get you in on the affiliate program if you like the product. Or one time, Olight recently sent me an email and they were like, hey, we want to send you a product and we want it by this date. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to do with any Olights anymore unless I want to do a very specific video talking about Olight in a very specific way, and being even more critical than the last time, because we've done some stuff in the past with some of their handheld stuff, and we tried out one of their newer weapon mounted lights, and it was just okay, But unless I want to do a video for them, I don't want to be like, hey, now I have to be on your timeline. We want this video done by this date, or we're gonna lose faith in you. I don't care about you that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how many others are getting those emails and saying like, hey, we want you to do this video by this date, and now it's free marketing for us. And all we have to do is give you a product that costs us $30 to make or less, because depending on who made it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, that's another side of it too, is you could be that channel and take those products and cool, like that's on you, right? But I think to have staying power, especially nowadays, people want authenticity, man. I
Hmm.
think one of the biggest compliments I've received, and not talking about myself in, in any way, not trying to blow sugar up my own ass here, but like when people say like you're the same person that I see on the screen as you are in person, like just an authentic, genuine dude. That to me, that's like the nicest thing people could say. Because again, coming through the screen, your authenticity is being picked up by viewers who don't know you. And I think that's where the line is like people can tell pretty quickly if you're shilling, especially nowadays, or if you're being authentic. And then sometimes they may be confused on that, and that's okay. But I don't know.
Well,
I don't know where I was really going with that, but I think
can we talk about the? Or, I mean, I'll let you finish your thought, but can we also talk about what it means to shill and what it and where people might be confused on where that
yeah,
line is?
yeah, I think I'll bring it up again. This cobalt rifle, right? I got called a shill in the video, and it's simply because people don't like the barrels that cobalt uses for the price of the gun, right? I don't have a problem with it. That's just me. Um, but that shill word has been thrown around so much now that I think people use it in the wrong way. Like there is definitely the difference between being a shill and just saying, "Hey, this shit product is good" because you're getting paid for it, or like, "Hey, I do like this product," or "Hey, I just did an ad read." I think that the shill thing, people can define it differently probably nowadays than I do, but it all comes down to putting your name behind a product that you know is not good just to get a paycheck, and I have a very hard time with that. So I don't know.
You know, it's interesting because I just did a quick Google search on the Googles, just of the definition of shill, and I think we're kind of using it wrong, you know,
Yeah,
because it really the more textbook definition is more or less if you were to be like at a like a carnival or some sort of fair or in a store, and all of a sudden you have a product a customer come in and he's like overly enthusiastic. Oh man, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Oh man, you've got to buy this. It's really it's like a trick, you know, to swindle people into making a buying decision about something that you claim to have purchased. And
yeah,
that's not necessarily the case if you're being transparent. Well, not the case at all. It's like, okay, well, hey, they sent me this, so there's no doubt that how do you say this? There's no doubt that there's no lack of transparency there. They sent me
yeah,
the gun. I like the gun for these reasons. Maybe they could have done this differently. And if you're not willing to issue any sort of like a real critique, not like a oh I wish it was in black.
sure,
Shut
sure.
up! Come on, man.
Yeah, no, dude, you put it beautifully, better than I could have. I think that is a pretty definitive line, right? Like, I think like anything, we want what we pay for, right? Or what I would want if I did pay for this rifle, right?
Hmm.
That doesn't mean that I'm 100% swayed to say that this rifle is awesome. It just means like, hey, I do like these things about it. Could they change this? Yes. Does that make me a shill? If that's someone's definition, that's fine. Totally cool. I don't receive a dime from selling any of those rifles, right?
Right.
Similarly, like Type A rifles, if you're familiar with
Oh
them,
yeah, yeah, yeah. They're pretty pricey.
they're pretty pricey. And we reviewed their rifle for the first time like 3 years ago on the channel. And I'm not saying that we had a hand in this, but we did move the needle a little bit. They went from like no back orders to like 3 months to 6 months to like a year back orders. And I'm not saying it was because of us. We did play a role in that and we tracked those analytics. And people then in the future might say, well, you guys are just shills for Type A. Man, I've never received a fucking paycheck from those dudes, so I must not be shilling the right way. Cause like,
Right.
you
Yeah,
know,
you gotta show a little harder, buddy. Come on,
I know
man.
apparently,
We got to buy
dude,
more
I'm doing
guns.
it wrong for sure. But I think
Well,
everyone probably has their own definition of shill to an extent. But for me, it's just someone that you can tell is saying something is good when you know
yeah.
it's not.
Right. And I think that's a huge point where it's like you're overlooking a lot of what the general populace would want the answers on. Like if I
Yeah,
review, let's say I review the new micro compact, and I don't talk anything about the capacity, or I make it sound like, oh yeah, this comes with 8 rounds. That's so great, man. Back in my day, it was 6 rounds in a revolver. Now we're at 8 rounds. 8 rounds, okay, for a new micro compact. Oh man, and it's got a nice slot where if you want to send it off to get cut for an optic, it's got plenty of space for that. Okay, and it's got a nice nice plastic sights. These things look pretty durable. Plastic sights, okay, okay, and then you're like,
Not
and
adding
now
up.
you're like, at what point are we even being honest, like, and actually talking about the things that customers want to hear about, and not dressing it up like it's actually good. But I want to pivot off of that because I think we've beat that horse to death, and I want to
Sure.
talk about you guys in affiliate programs, and we mentioned guys who do it really really well, like Mr. Guns and Gears, Tactical Toolbox. They're the affiliate kings. Like, they're making real money by solving problems that customers have. Customers want to get a Daniel defense, but they don't want to pay for a Daniel defense lower because it's not actually like the part of the gun that needs to cost what it costs. Like, there's nothing
Sure.
in it that's really that valuable. The barrels and all that, that's where the real money is. But you're overpaying for the lowers. According to Tactical Toolbox, I haven't really looked at it. All my Daniel Defense people, I love you guys. Don't. I'm just kidding. You
No,
guys are
just an
fine.
example.
Right. This is just an example. But really, if he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna hop on my Avant Link or whatever affiliate program system that you guys use, and say, well, these lowers are pretty decent, or you can get somewhat of the same value. I've done my research. I know what I'm talking about. I shoot this thing into the ground. I did the hard work so you guys don't have to. If you buy from this link, you don't have to. You could buy from any other link in the world. But if you buy from my link, it does help the channel. And maybe I'll make $1 million next year, or however much you could potentially make selling a bazillion lowers, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
is there do you personally have any moral qualms with promoting something in that way, or is there a way that is less ethical in your book, or just with the way that you think? I mean, obviously, I know you said you're not the moral high ground on this, but you have a way of thinking that I think people can appreciate.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I think it'll probably be a little bit of a case by case basis depending on what the agreement is, but let's talk about like Blackout Defense Rifles, which Tactical Toolbox, I think he's sponsored by them, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we did that review, we had an affiliate code for a certain time period. So if people use that code, we would get a little kickback, right? And people might say that's shilling for sure. That's fine. Bro, I fly to Utah. I buy the ammo. We pay for a production. We pay for a videographer. We pay for editing. I mean, when you start stacking this up, I am now producing a video for a company that is costing me thousands of dollars. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And time away from my wife, time away from my home, right? I mean, the list goes on, right? So,
It
like,
keeps
if,
it's endless.
dude, and so
You got to buy
you
food.
consider it, say again,
So you got to buy food.
yeah,
Get out of
yeah.
your regular
Well,
schedule.
I could miss a couple meals, but that's a different story. But at the end of the day, if you consider that shilling, that's fine. I don't have an endless amount of money, and if you like the channel enough to watch it and subscribe, then you should also understand that, like, hey, this isn't free, bro. And like, maybe we're doing YouTube wrong and not making money the right way, but this is the only way I'd want to do it because I feel the most honest about it and I can go to bed at night, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we have another affiliate, Segura, which is belts. They make, battle belts and stuff like that. I don't have one on me, but they're over there. They sponsor every channel of the of or every episode of the channel. So we shout them out in every episode. We get a little kickback if you use our code, and then they send us a little money for basically an ad read on the channel, right? Now, we only did that because we did a series testing like 7 different battle belts, and I decided I like that setup the best, man. Like, I really like how they're doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to attach my name to it, and then if there's a business opportunity for us to both make some money or cover some cost, there's a paper trail showing, well, I only did that because I believe in the product,
Yeah.
right? So I
Yeah.
guess it depends on how you go about it. Again, I'm not the moral high ground, but like, we do got to make some money, bro. Like, I don't know. not to be doom and gloom, but like, man, I don't know how much longer I can do YouTube if I don't start making some fucking money, dude. Like,
I get it.
it is
I
so expensive, man.
it really is. Like, I, I, I'll say this, and this is, I guess, more about me, right? Is recently I went to Atlanta to cover the NAGA convention, National African American Gun Association. They had
Yeah,
their first ever convention. It's really a historic event. Like, if you really think about it, there's only been one, I guess, gun convention put on by a black organization ever in America, which is awesome. Great for the Second
awesome.
Amendment, great for what we're trying to do here in the space, and it just kind of pushes the conversation forward. As responsible, effective, that's what we were going for, and I think that's what they achieved. And the mission's aligned. They didn't pay me for that trip at all. I really wish I could have got something out of it, but really just the way the conversation went and the timing of it, there is nothing there in that regard. So I was like, okay, we're going to write off the cost, and it cost a lot of money because I couldn't just go by myself in the middle of summer. My wife's in college, or she's in her doctoral program, so I can't just leave the kids with her, right? I
Damn,
gotta,
bro. What's
yeah,
she
yeah,
getting a
she's
doctorate in?
public health, so
Damn,
little
bro.
focusing
That's
on
awesome. Tell her congrats.
maternity.
That's
I,
huge.
I, I will. She'll be happy to hear that, and happy to know I'm talking about her in a nice way.
Right?
I'm teasing, but yeah. The So I can't leave it by myself. So I'm like, okay, let's pack the kids up, get a nice big Airbnb, so my camera guy can have his own space, my kids can have their own space, food for everybody, right? We got to get a rental car because our family vehicle doesn't have enough room, and it doesn't split in half for us to go do convention stuff while they're trying to, go have fun in town.
Yeah.
And so there's gas for two vehicles, rental expenses. I flew the camera guy out. So there's that. And then there's additional gear that I said, okay, we're going to need this if we're going to be out there all day. We're going to need some additional battery,
Yep.
and some additional stabilization, this and this and that. I'm like, the current setup is not built for conventions that are 3 days long. So
Yeah.
it's a 3 day event. You got to get there the day before, leave the day after.
Yep.
Just a mess.
Dude, we're talking thousands of dollars.
Thousands of dollars.
Thousands.
And this is out of the goodness of my own heart. So if I want to charge somebody for something and I'm honest about it, please don't complain. Like, unless I'm being just completely just wrong.
Yes.
Like, bro, like, that this brand is known for producing trash. You didn't really push this thing. I appreciate Honest Outlaw. He took his Springfield and drug it through the mud and, really beat it up, and apparently is still running pretty well. Okay, well,
Cool.
their previous release had issues. The Prodigy had issues. Now the Springfield Echelon, you're putting it through its paces. And if you're going to say it's good, you're going to have to put it through its paces, or people are
Yep.
going to start to wonder if you're a brand of being the most honest name in GunTube. If it's it's in the name, right? People are going to start to wonder about it. Is the gun space is kind of a what have you done for me lately space, you
Sure.
know? So you start screwing up. Maybe you'll get a pass, but you do it enough times and that's it. Like,
Yeah. And
you're
even going back, like acknowledging that too, like say he got paid for it or whatever. I not even Honest Outlaw, just someone else got paid to
right.
do that review. If they acknowledge it, dude, like, hey, we all know the Prodigy was a little dicey, right?
Yep.
I did get sent this product and paid for this review, but look at what happened here. Here's the video. Here's how it lined out. You guys can draw your own conclusion, dude. I respect the hell out of that.
Hmm.
Like, but again, if you're just doing it and saying it's good for a paycheck, I don't know, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're beating that dead horse too much, right? But at the end of the day, like, dude, it's expensive to do YouTube, and if you
Yeah.
got to pay your bills, figure out the way you're going to do that. But that's also why when people, even if it's a random stranger on the internet, when they're like, dude, this video was shit, you're like, bro, I spent 40 hours writing that video. I flew to Utah. I was away from my wife from 5 days. I paid $4,000 to produce it. You're like, bro, you're not just talking bad about the video. Like, this is so much work that just because you think this
Right.
happened and this happened, you're talking shit about it. So that's why I always try to be fair for people because it's
Right.
expensive,
Yeah,
right?
and it's your life force. You are literally giving your life to a thing, and in a way that most jobs aren't going to ask you to do the same thing.
No,
Like,
dude, this is the only job I've had that I've paid to go to. Right? Like,
yo, that's crazy.
dude, I have paid a year's salary to go to this job every year for the last 4 years.
Hmm.
I've drained my life savings account, dude. Like,
Because you
I have
believe in it.
put everything into it.
Yeah.
But also, that's why when people talk trash, they don't know all that. They don't
No.
know the background. They don't know the ins and outs, and they shouldn't. This is YouTube entertainment, right? So I don't take
Right.
it.
Yeah, and that isn't. But isn't that the thing where you talk about it and you like the the negativity that you can face from online. One of the I'm a big. I'm not going to say I'm a big Halo fan, but my brothers are big Halo fans, and I play from time to time. Yeah.
You're not a big Halo fan?
I am a big Halo fan, but I'm not going to claim the title of the greatest Halo fan ever in the sense that, I know exactly how many frames and how many seconds the TTK it is with the assault rifle from the, 50 yards. There's some details
Sure.
in gaming that I'm not going to say, okay, I literally nerd out about these things. But, I play some Halo. Yeah, I play some
Yeah.
Halo for real.
Yeah.
So the I guess the oh my gosh, where was I going with that? Oh my gosh, we got
Halo. What were we talking about? Halo.
oh man. I
I lost
suppose
it too.
the idea is you really I guess going back a little bit, you pour your life into a thing. People don't quite understand exactly how much commitment you pour into it, and then you get negative comments. One of the guys that I've watched whenever I'm playing Halo and I'm kind of sucking and I'm like, well, is there like a new gun that's like the meta that if you get this gun and you really perform with it, like you'll be able to do well. I was like, I haven't seen his videos in a while, so I went and I looked him up, and the last video he put out was like, hey guys, I know I've been out for like 7 months or something like that. I just kind of got burnt out. I put a lot of my life into this thing. I've kind of damaged certain relationships because I'm committing so much of my time and energy to creating this content for you. And the negative comments are so incredibly potent. And I'm starting to take them personally, or at least I have been. And, the good comments, they don't necessarily outweigh the bad. As much as good comments are helpful, you could have 10 really great comments and one comment that says just the right thing. And you're just like, wow. Are they
Yeah.
are they right? I mean, this video did really well. I mean, the like to dislike ratio is okay, but I wonder if I really didn't. Is there something I could have done better? And you start to question yourself. Maybe you don't, but I know I have.
Oh, I do. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I see those comments too, in the beginning, I'd get all like maybe fiery and just like defend myself, a little bit.
Mm.
Um, and now what I do is I take the comment, I break it down analytically, like, hey, is what this person's saying true? And have that honest conversation with yourself, because I can't have it with that person, but I can have it with myself. And usually at the end of that conversation, I draw two conclusions. This guy's a hater, and that's it. Or, hey, he might have said it in a negative way. He has some good points. I'm going to put that in my notes of things to work on so I can get better, right? And like, I think that's what it's all about, man. Like, because there's clear hater, and then there's very clear, like, hey, I'm a hater, but I am also making a solid point. And like, I think we should be adult enough to figure that out. And then again, have that conversation with yourself and adjust accordingly. If it's someone that doesn't matter and their opinion doesn't matter, which none of these people's opinions matter, right? It's strangers on the internet at the end of the day. And I mean
At
that
the
in
end
a
of the
good.
day, all right.
But hey, this guy had a good point, and I think if I listen to what he is actually saying and apply it, I can be better at my craft.
Yeah.
Because that does happen, in some of the comments that we'll get. One of them was not negative, but was like, hey, I've watched you guys for 4 years, so this dude knows.
Hmm.
You guys did this, and I think you could have done this better, and this could have been brought up a little bit. It's like, hey, this guy's seen the progression of content. He
Right.
knows what we deliver. You know what? He actually has a good point. I need to tweak this thing. Like,
And I would say, in a way, he's one of the investors, isn't he? He's somebody who has a
sure.
certain level of investment. He's
I'm
been
writing that
with you
down.
for a
That's very
while.
good.
Yeah, yeah. And he's been with the channel a while. He watches his, 50 videos that he's watched contributes maybe a few bucks just in the grand scheme of things. But he has invested his personal life force into consuming the content, leaving comments, sharing, liking, posting in a Discord somewhere, posting in a Reddit sub. He's one of the investors versus the other side where it's just one of the detractors, somebody who just shows up and is just a hater, really.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you want to hear from your investors? And there's certain levels, right? There's Patreon guys, there's guys who, they'll buy the merch. There's guys who will literally send you stuff to review, like, hey man, borrow my gun,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all those people, they can have their opinion. But even your Wall Street investors, if they were to send you a nasty letter because you guys did something different, there's a certain level of tarnish or not tarnish, but a certain level of oh my gosh, the UK has a slander that is not acceptable from anybody, and
Sure.
you do have to just put that to the side and say this person's having a bad day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But ultimately, I can appreciate that you guys actually took that advice, took that feedback, and ran with it. I recently had somebody say like, "Hey, you guys did something kind of weird with this," and I was like, "Oh, we were trying something different with the lenses and the focal lengths, and it didn't work in that video the way it should have. Somebody with a keen eye is going to see that. It's going to cause problems. So you got to be able to take it."
That's a cool interaction too. Like when you start going back and forth with someone that made a comment, and you're like, "Oh, well, this is why we did it," and then they're open to it, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't see that," or "Oh, well, that's cool. Maybe try this next time." Like, dude, some of the haters in the comments section, I don't purposely try to turn into non-haters, but dude, we interact heavily with followers and comments and everything. Like, dude, we have schedules where we get in and start talking to people just because that's something we believe in.
Yeah.
And some of those haters have turned now to, hey, now that you explained it and I understand where you're coming from, I apologize. My bad, Chris. Like, keep up the good work. And dude, that is awesome. Just as much as I acknowledge someone saying I messed up. Hey, dude, you're right. I did mess up on this. I'll do better. And they're like, cool, man, no worries. I get fulfilled from that also. So like, there can be some very positive exchanges when doing that.
Yeah. It's interesting that, you say that because I think there's a certain level of attention that certain people do want. I'm not trying to say everybody who has strong or critical feedback is searching for attention. That's not fair, right? But there was somebody once upon a time who was like, I posted a video of my buddy shooting his DD MK18 variant, and I had like this Christian rap song playing in the background. And he was like, "Oh, this would have been a great video except for that stupid rap music." I'm like, "You don't like Christian rap?" Because I can kind of tell like this guy's coming from a weird place where he only wants country music or EDM on his gun videos. And then and I was like, you bro, like, are you good? Like, listen, bro, I don't know what's going on, but if you're going to come in here, offer some feedback, you've never said anything nice about the channel. This is my first time seeing you. Can you say something nice if you're going to say something like as disrespectful as you just did? Maybe I'm kind of sunning him a little bit too much, but that's how the conversation went. And he was like, "You know what, bro? People have been telling me recently that I've been a little bit too negative. I need to take that to heart. I'm so sorry. Like, you're doing a great job." And I'm just like, wait, what happened?
Dude, and how this is a genuine thing here. Like, that is a very cool interaction through the internet that we just had.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's a saying, and I believe it 100%. I don't know anyone who's doing good in life that leaves negative comments on social media.
Yeah.
Okay. There's plenty of content that I watch where I'm like, bro, this shit does not vibe with me. So guess what I do? Click out of it and click on something else.
That's how you vote, though.
It's
vote
that
with your
simple,
views.
dude. Like, hey, this doesn't vibe with me, but this guy obviously put in the time, put in the effort, paid the money, all these things that I know it takes. So like, dude, it's not my thing. I don't like it. So I'm out, dude. Like, I don't have to be positive. I don't have to be negative. I just, much like you said, vote with my click, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, it is fun sometimes when the haters get in there and it's such a ridiculous comment that you go back and forth and you're kind of talking trash to each other. But also, like, I talk shit to my wife. She's my best friend. Like,
Hmm.
I enjoy talking trash to people.
Right.
If it's fun and respectful, we can do that even if we disagree. And
Right.
like, dude, those engagements are fun too, where it's like, bro, you're just a hater, and it's like, yeah, I am a hater, and mostly I'm just jealous because you're on YouTube shooting guns, and I'm in my office, working, and I'm like, well, you're in your office, and that has air conditioning because it's 200 degrees out here, so it's a
Bro,
win-win-win, right?
we went out yesterday to do some shooting, and we got out there a little bit too late. We were trying to go early before it got too hot. We're in like a heat wave here in Texas, bro. I'm sure it's the same way up in Arizona, right?
Bro, it was like 118 last week here.
Exact, bro. And we were out there, and I'm like, by the end of it, I was like, I didn't bring enough water bottles. I should have brought the keg. We would have been a little safer. And we were under a covering too. And I'm like, come
Yep.
on, man.
Yeah.
Like it's hot, and people don't understand the pain that you put yourself through to make a good video for them to either enjoy or just like completely just tear apart because they have nothing better to do and they're mad at the world because they've hated their job for the last 6 months and
Sure.
they can't quit yet, you know.
Sure.
And I've
And
I've
that
been there.
we've all been there, dude. We've all been
Hmm.
there. But again, like, I would then take some inventory on my own life and be like, hey, am I hating because I'm jealous?
Hmm.
Yeah, that's probably it. And like you
Yeah.
said, dude, I have permanent scars on my body from suppressor burns and all this other stuff to
Hmm.
make free YouTube content for people to potentially talk shit about.
Yeah.
Like, and again, at the end of the day, I chose this life. They choose their life. Like, is what it is, man.
Yeah,
So,
well, I love your attitude about it. That you did choose this life, and you continue to choose it. And obviously, one day that you might not be here, and I hope people can appreciate the work that you put in. Whether it's 10 years from now that you decide to retire out of the gun game, or 50 years from now, however old
sure.
you're able to. You could be like, oh my gosh, Hickok
Hickok.
45. My man looks like he's actually a lot more youthful than one might guess. I'm not even sure how old he is, but he's not 50. Like he's
Dude,
not
he's
50.
he's pushing 100 or something, dude. That guy is old.
Some, but he can still shoot though, which is
I know,
great.
right?
Which is
Yeah.
great. Going for the gong.
Right?
Bing! It's like, man, I want to shoot a gong,
Well, and
but
one of the questions was asking, because we were talking about being out filming where we shoot on, if it's private or public land.
yeah,
Um, Out here on the west, you guys don't experience it in Texas that much, but out here on the west, we have a ton of public BLM land. Um, so like, we just, from my house here in Arizona, I can drive 20 minutes and shoot in the desert out to a mile. Like,
okay, yeah,
and then Utah, where I fly up every month to film in Utah, it's same thing. We just film on public land. And we have a couple spots around Salt Lake City, about 2 hours circumference around Salt Lake we film in. And that gets us mountains and pine trees with snow all the way to desert and 110 degrees, like anywhere in between. So like, we're very fortunate where we live to film on some very beautiful scenic, land.
that's awesome. I
So
actually have two more questions. One has to do with your production schedule. About how many videos do you push out a month?
yeah, so we used to put out 2 videos a week. So you're looking at 8 videos total.
Right.
And now we've cut back to do higher quality videos with less amount.
Yeah.
And so right now we're pushing out sometimes 1 to 2 times a month. We'll put out 2 videos, but usually it's just one video every Friday now. So,
Okay. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so when I fly up to film, we usually have 2 film days, and we'll film anywhere from 3 to like 8 videos in that filming cycle. So then I go home for a month. We start planning more content. In that month, that previous month's filming gets sent out, and then I go back up to film again. And we always
Mhm.
just kind of do that 4 week cycle. So once a month, every month, I fly to Utah to film.
So expensive. The amount of miles.
And
Ooh.
and to be fair, that's the cheapest part. So this is something really cool. There's a municipal airport 5 minutes
Mm,
from me that flies to Provo, Utah, which is outside of Salt Lake, for $170 round trip.
fair enough. $100
It,
to get on a flight. $100 back. That's not the worst. You can
it's
do
the
worse.
cheapest thing. It's
You you
legit the
can
cheapest thing.
you can do worse with gas.
Well,
And
and like a
time.
case of ammo, dude, it's 5 times that.
Hmm.
So like, legit, our cheapest production cost is the flights to Utah.
Fair enough. Um, the next question I had is, and we'll tackle these questions as soon as we go to commercial. But the next question I have is, are you guys on Patreon, or do you have some sort of subscriber based support where, obviously that's not going to be the bulk of your supporters, but if you can even get 1% of the people who watch or who are actual fans to hop in there and become super fans,
Yeah.
sometimes you can pay for certain things. Do you guys
Yep.
have that, or do you really depend like pretty much exclusively on converting YouTube monetization dollars and into and keeping that monetization, and then going and making money on the back end selling houses and different real estates?
Yeah. Yeah. So real estate funded it for the most part for a long time. We've had Patreon for like 3 years now, and we have several different tiers. The highest tier being 1911, right? 1911 cent, right? Right. Our lowest tier is 380. We have a 556 tier, a 762 tier. Like we try
That's
to play off
hilarious.
calibers, right?
You're hilarious.
Um, and just simple, right? And
Hmm.
we get some support from that. We do have a bunch of Patreon guys that, not a bunch, we got a decent following on there that help support, and all of that goes back to production costs. But
Like it
what we
has to.
offer also is like we did a limited run of syndicate branded watches,
Oh, we.
and those only get available to Patreon subscribers first as part
Hmm.
of being a part of Patreon. We did a limited run of Syndicate Zippo lighters, right?
Nice.
Um, and then we also, as a way to bring value to the Patreon guys, we started this year hosting training classes from industry professionals that first goes out to our highest Patreon supporter tier, then it trickles down. And if
Hmm.
you want to attend one of these classes, they're only open to the Patreon guys. And so we try to, if you're going to pay us a monthly fee to watch Jake and I be idiots on YouTube, we try to bring some value back to you, right?
Hmm.
Um, and we had our first ever class that we hosted with Mike Pannone. He's a very well known firearms instructor.
Hmm.
And 13 dudes that support us on Patreon flew in from all over the country. And for 2 days, we had a shooting class, and then we'd barbecue at night and hang out and drink. And like,
Man, that sounds pretty awesome. Like now
yeah,
I'm getting inspired. Like, oh shoot, man, I had to do something like that. Like,
yeah, which,
what does it cost to get some Zippos together for the for the fellas who are
dude,
supporting?
it's not terrible. Like these watches here, like we have, it's through JP Wristwatch on Instagram. We built it to mimic kind of the, let me tilt it,
Hmm.
kind of the Rolex Submariner 2 GMT.
Hmm.
It says Syndicate on the bottom here in red. And
Nice,
then we, on the back part, we engraved the grid coordinates of where that class was held. So, like,
nice.
we only made 15 of them. And it was only for those Patreon dudes. And so it's trying to give value back to people that are spending their money, but also their time, dude. Time is more valuable than anything. And they're spending their time to watch you and I play dress up on YouTube.
Right,
So try to bring some value back.
right. It is funny that you said play dress up, because there's a certain level where I don't wear the exact same outfit that I wear in real life. There's certain things that I'll do. Like, okay, like it's a t-shirt, I'll wear that. I'll wear some cargo pants or something light. I'll do that. But like to run around with some, the heaviest stuff that I can get, and just sending rounds downrange, I'm not doing that on a daily basis. Like I'm out here training. I will train,
Yeah,
but like the coolest stuff I make sure to record that. you know?
sure, sure. Yeah,
So
which I wear a black t-shirt almost every day and combat pants, even if I'm not at the range.
yeah,
Like, look, man, not trying to show you my pants, but wearing combat pants, right?
this guy.
Like, it's kind of a caricature and like funny thing that I don't know, the channel's a little known for is I wear like combat pants everywhere, even as a joke to like Walmart. Like, dude,
Right.
most days I shoot. Like, I'll shoot anywhere from 4 to 7 days a week, depending on the projects. So I'm already wearing combat pants because I'm going to the range anyways. I
Yeah.
just, it's a funny thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and my bad. Let's go ahead and go to commercial break. and
Cool.
we'll wrap up and we'll answering some of these questions. If you guys have any questions, make sure you tap those in, and we'll make this available to the podcast guys as well. All right. So, guys, if you don't know, you ought to know that Costly Conversations podcast and Armed Atlas and a lot of the stuff that we do on whether it's podcast side or the gun tubing firearms YouTube side, it's very much supported by Obsidian Tactics. Me and the owner, he's a great friend of mine, make sure that we are straight in regards to all the gear that we need. I'm going to scooch down a little bit so you guys can see the logo a little bit better. But, he makes sure that we have all the gear we need. If ever I need anything, he makes sure that we're straight on that. So, actually, just for reference, he made sure that we had these Wilson combat grips because we are producing some SIG P365 content. So, making sure that we are straight in regards to the supplies that we need. He went ahead and sent those over. Didn't ask for a dime. Just put them in a box and sent them over, just so we can make sure that we're good in the content. So support the people who support us. ObsidianTactics.com. Code Armed Atlas actually gets you free shipping. For those of you who aren't taking advantage of that, I'm confused. Why do you enjoy paying for shipping? It's a little weird. So make sure that you're supporting Obsidian Tactics, because he's one of the organization, the company, they support everything we do, even when we're wrong. So appreciate that. Thanks, guys. And on to the show. So, Chris,
Right on.
Q&A time.
Sure.
There are some statements, some comments, some questions, and some things that I saved because I thought, it's coming from the audience. It would be good if we go ahead and just kind of talk about this for just a second before we wrap up. It said most folks think content is free because they can't wrap their minds around intellectual property and production cost. I agree. Yeah. That's Obsidian Tactics with the first statement. And then my guy Burnt Nugget, that's the homie. He said, "What's up, guys? What's up, Chris? I love your work, bro. Great dude." Oh, so sweet.
Thank you, brother. Sounds like he reached out to see if we would review some of his rifles. I don't know if it was me or Jake.
No, that was somebody else. That was
or that's Burnt Nugget.
That was my guy Rostic Arms. He I think he had some questions about rifles. But Burnt Nugget said that I carry a PO7 and he enjoyed your video. He tricked his out. Did you guys did a video on the PO7? You guys like it or no?
Yeah. I reviewed that one. Jake wasn't a big fan, but dude, low bore axis, striker fire polymer pistol. If you want to get away from Glock, that PO7 is what's up, dude.
Yeah, man. I really wish the P320s had a better reputation and also a lower bore axis, because that would be the ultimate gun. And I guess maybe Springfield's trying to take over that spot in regards to more Glocky, builds that you can take off that lower frame and put a third party all metal frame on there, or change the sizes. And that's what I really appreciate about these freaking these Wilson grips is we.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, where are we? You can get different sizes. I mean, and hopefully they and other companies keep supporting platforms like the P365, because it's never been a better time to be a gun owner, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And Simon says, Patreon and other donations don't come close to covering the expenses, but I'm thankful for them. But the sponsors are definitely needed, especially in 2A advocacy. Ooh, okay. I guess that's a good place for us to jump off. Patreon guys, they're awesome. They put a lot of their time, effort, and finances into it. At some point, $4,000 a video versus, 10, 100, 2,000 guys chipping in a certain amount of their hard-earned money. It doesn't exactly cover everything, especially if you guys are making 2 videos a week at that higher click, right? And that's zero disrespect to those guys, because they do a lot more than they even ought to, if we're being for real. Let's talk about bigger sponsors from like 2A advocacy groups like and I suppose that the question is, how much of their money should they be putting into GunTube when they're supposed to be like fighting the, you know, tyrants in government, right? Like Gun Owners of America, I know they directly sponsor handsomely Guns Out TV and their operation that they do that they have, which is a huge operation. Like, don't
Yeah.
let subscriber counts fool you; they're huge.
Yeah.
And I know Firearms Policy Coalition. They are one of the biggest names, really active in the space. They talk a lot of
Yeah.
junk online. We love it. We're here for it.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know that they sponsor anybody directly, or if they should, being that they're busy raising money. At what point should an organization spend money on these things? And is there a line for that? Do you know?
Man, I don't know if there's like a number line for it, right? But let's take something like Firearms Policy Coalition, which in my opinion is really doing a lot for our gun rights.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime that there's some illegal gun, something or other, they immediately file a lawsuit against it. And I mean, it's, and they show that. So I guess maybe it's not so much a how much money, but like, can you show me direct use of those funds?
Mm-hmm.
And I believe some of these advocacy groups do. One that does not is the NRA.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Wayne LaPierre has like what, 2 to 3 ginormous houses, private jets. They did a fundraising diner for like $2 million for this dinner after it was all said and done. And what have they done for gun rights in the last 60 years? Not a fucking thing. Where
Right.
FPC and I put my money where my mouth is. People donate to our Patreon. I donate to Patreon stuff that I support, right? I
Mm-hmm.
can't support everyone because I'm not made of money.
Right.
But if you can give me, even in the 2A advocacy stuff, if you can show me direct use of my money, like, dude, I think it probably is easier to write that check every month, even though it's
Mm-hmm.
$4, right? But hey, right, that's $50 a year, X amount of money, whatever. But if like FPC shows you direct results of your money getting donated from their Twitter posts, from their Instagram posts, and from the lawsuits that they push out, right?
Right.
So like I don't know what the number is, but if you can show me direct lines to where my money is going, I'm much happier to pay that money, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
So
I'm I'm with you on that. Is there some sort of results, and is it the results that I want? And obviously, at some level, there maybe I could want something more, or maybe I could be happy with less because I'm like, okay, these guys are doing this, and I wonder if it's at all possible. And I'm not here to defend the NRA because that's just stupid, right? But if it is at all possible that NRA is just working in the shadows and not really putting it out there that they're doing all these things, like is that possible, or do we have basically the public record and people auditing them to say like, hey, listen, like as much as okay, Wayne has 4 houses, he's basically part of the Titanic called NRA. Like if he's the lead of that, you're gonna have some bread, and especially if you got speaking fees and if you write a book or something stupid, like you can make money. I'm not here to defend Wayne. I think he's egregiously terrible at the way he manages the thing, and I think he should have been out a long time ago. But that's not a profound statement. That's almost a regurgitated statement because it's said so often. But
sure.
the question is it possible that they are doing more, but we just don't see it?
I think potentially sure, but also it's the 21st century, bro. You have so many modes of getting information out there. YouTube, Instagram, I mean name it. That you
Mm-hmm.
can there should be no reason for you to not show me where my dollar is going, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, follow your local state and federal laws. The federal government is nothing but a criminal organization, and they cannot show me direct causes of where my taxes are going other than paying for Ukraine and what's going on over there. I
Right.
got potholes in my road. Flint, Michigan still doesn't have clean drinking water, right? Like, I mean, if we take that scope of it, I'm happy to donate if you can show me where that money's going. If you're
Mm-hmm.
doing it in the shadows, we all know what happens in the shadows, dude. And that money goes towards private jets and probably strippers and blow, but I can't confirm that.
Ever so likely, but allegedly. Yeah.
Allegedly.
So Yeah, and I mean, if you want to talk about the degradation of American infrastructure, I mean, we're talking about the inability to manage the FAA, the Transportation Commission. You know, trains are just blowing up in Ohio, and we can't get that cleaned up. Oh wait, Hawaii's on fire. Like, let's go ahead and get that fire put out, buddy. Like, send people down and take care of that. Oh wait, no, everybody's dead. Okay, okay, the whole island's pretty much burnt to a crisp. Got you. I just feel like Mississippi should also have clean drinking water. Can we go down the list? How much money did the Pentagon lose? Oh, we could
Dude,
have started the podcast like this.
I know, right? And now we're gonna get into a whole other argument or discussion about stuff, but
All
like
right.
start to bring the government into it. But yeah, show me where the
Oof.
money's going and show me direct use of it, tangible. And
Yeah.
like, dude, I'm happy to pay it. You know?
And I will be a little bit more fair in a certain regard. They do have their instructor program, which generates a butt ton of money. Like they're making money on that, right? Um, and they also, I went to the NRA convention not as a member because I didn't want to give them money, but I said, give me a media pass and I'll show up, right?
Sure,
Which, yeah, that's the way to do it if you want to
sure.
make your connections and not pay them. Just have a YouTube channel. You don't even have to do anything. Just make a few
Yeah,
videos. Anyways,
right.
and they were like, hey, we're doing this. We're raising money for these things. They had a raffle going on, giving away a bunch of guns to, I guess, support shooting sports stuff. And I guess when we think about the advancement of the shooting sports, we just think about like NSF because they do a better job of even in the name, National Shooting Sports
Sure.
Foundation, right? Excuse me. And I wonder, like, okay, so they're not good when it comes to lobbying. They're doing other stuff, right? I mean, they're pretty much in bed with USPSA. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
that's helpful. I think. I don't know.
That
Could
and
they be
with
better on
Glock,
their?
like NSSF, if you sign up for NSSF, you get a discount on 2 Glocks per calendar year.
Mm,
So there's some tangible return there, right?
yeah.
It's the same discount that law enforcement get through the Blue Label
Oh,
program.
I should probably sign up for NSSF because I want to buy some more Glocks.
Well, and that's, dude, again, I worked in a Glock store, right? So like people would be like, man, like I thought I qualified for the Blue Label program because I'm a security guard. And I'd be like, no, you don't. But NSSF, here's the paperwork, fill this out, 2 discounted Glocks per calendar year. Like
Yeah.
there's now some tangible return on you paying into something, right?
Yeah. Now, to clarify, it depends on who you buy it from, but some places will take it if your agency writes you a letter. Let's say
Correct.
agency or your company. You're not just going to show up and show them your
Guard
Texas
card.
level 3, whatever it is, pocket card, guard card, whatever, and get a gun
Yep.
for a discount. That's not going to happen. Your organization has to sign off on that. Let's see if there's any more questions that came through towards the bottom. Oh, there are a bunch of questions. Wayne should be in prison. Yo, Obsidian Tactics ooh with the haymaker. Wayne should be in prison. Um, okay, here we go. I got a few more questions. How much time do we have? I see we're at the hour 30.
I'm good if you're good, brother.
Okay, well let's run this thing for about 10, 15 more minutes and then we'll call it a day. You guys good with that in the chat? Podcast people, are you okay with that? You want a longer podcast? Waiting for the responses? No? Okay, I guess we'll cut it short. Just kidding. Um, Here we go. And we already answered the public range questions. This guy, what was the brand of belts that you were promoting?
Segura.
Segura. What a name. I
Yeah,
can't
shout
even.
out to Segura. That's what's up.
Yeah, and mm, I guess Burnt Nugget was trying to reach out because my sponsor Obsidian Tactics he developed a rifle more or less that I'm earning it right now. It's fantastic, but I guess he wanted you to take a look at it. I know you guys have an interesting production schedule, so that's one of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope we were respectful towards him reaching out. I don't know if it was Jake or I that responded to his email, but even if we're not interested or can't do it, like we try to be respectful to people like, hey, thank you for considering us. It just isn't going to work out. And I hope that's the answer he got. If it was a rude answer, it's because it was Jake. He's an asshole.
Yeah, listen, I have no doubt that the answer was just fine. I mean, even if it wasn't, go kick Jake in the shin or something, right?
Yeah, I'll take care of
Um,
it.
what was the hardest obstacle to overcome? I wish there was a little bit more context to this, but I guess in content creation, what is the hardest thing that you kind of run into that you're like, I gotta get through this?
It This is first world problems, please. I understand that very clearly, but like I run into writer's block, which authors have. Like I run into creativity block. I don't consider myself a creative person. I'm a sweat equity. Like you need something picked up and moved. I'm your guy. But as far as like being creative, that's for sure Jake and Crispy. And my hardest obstacle is staying creative because I'll be writing a video and getting some of the facts down that need to be in the video, and then trying to come up with a creative way to portray those. Sometimes I struggle with that. So, dude, the way and John Patton actually that we talked about, shout out to John. I called him. I'm like, dude, I'm writing this video and I cannot figure it out. What do you do? And he's like, walk away, bro. Go do something else. Take a break for a minute. You're pouring too much mental energy into it. You got to have creative energy come out, and you're blocking it by trying too hard, you know? Um, and so, like, dude, I just went to the cigar bar, smoked a cigar, started listening to some music, and then hit a creative streak and then went on from there. But yeah, staying creative is very difficult for me because I just don't consider myself creative. So,
Yeah, well, I can get that, and I want to get a little bit stronger in my writing slash bullet points because a lot of the content that I make is more on the fly.
yeah,
But some of the feedback that I've gotten and some of the things that I look back on, in the editing bay, because I do everything 99% myself except for running my cameras. That's, whichever camera guy we have, but it's usually Nate the cameraman. And, shout out to him because he does a lot that people don't see, and he does a
yeah,
lot for a lot less than he should. So shout out to him. Um, but I get the desire to be a better writer and to actually put the content together in a way that makes sense. Next question from my guy who actually I think you know who this is. I'll tell you when we get off. A lot of the content is related to gun reviews. If that wasn't Sorry, if it wasn't for gun reviews, do you think you'd still be on YouTube making content, or what content would you make?
man. Really, the only thing from the first time I shot a gun at 4 years old to today that I'm passionate about is guns. So, like, if I wasn't on YouTube making gun content, I probably wouldn't be making other content. Like, guns is what I know. Guns are my passion. I was actually thinking of getting out of the gun industry and just doing YouTube gun stuff, but I am so obsessed with firearms, I still have to work inside the industry. And so, like, if I wasn't making gun content, it probably wouldn't be any other content because I'm not interested in anything else, man.
When you say YouTube gun stuff, are you talking about like taking 100,000 marshmallows and blowing through it with a 50 cal, or what are you talking about? Like getting out of the industry? Because I know you said like technically industry for you is like supporting gun guys and door kickers and buying homes and stuff like that. Is that what you mean by industry, or what are you talking about?
No, I mean, because I worked behind a gun counter and then I worked
That's
for a
right.
big manufacturer in the gun industry. I was thinking about separating my career outside of the gun industry at all as far as working in it and
Hmm.
just being in the industry as a YouTuber. Um,
Which is an
but
interesting place to be. Yeah.
yes, yeah, which that's awesome. But I'm so obsessed with guns. I also want to work in the gun space while doing gun YouTube, you know?
Right.
So,
Yeah, I get that. Now, forgive me for maybe if I missed it, but I thought you had kind of left your like official job and started doing the not flipping homes, but the real estate part. Are you still kind of doing both, or what are we doing at this point?
yeah, I got like 5 jobs. So,
Ah,
YouTube's the one that I pay to go to. I still do real estate. I still had a job inside the gun industry working for a suppressor manufacturer until recently. Um, and then for a long time, I still work behind a gun counter. And so, like, I got a lot inside the gun space. So now, currently, my jobs are real estate, YouTube, and I'm looking at getting another job with a manufacturer inside the gun industry here probably next week. So
well, look at that. Well,
yeah,
John's literally the most connected person I've seen since I don't know, ever. So
yeah,
it's a good thing that you have good friends and people that can kind of like, hey, is this still open, guys? I got a guy.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how much that plays into it. I'm sure you got your skills in your own CV, but
No, I actually called John when this manufacturer approached me and asked his opinion on it. So yeah, it's very, very thankful to have the support and friends that I do.
yeah. So, what are the final questions that we have? We have like two or three more that I really want to get to.
Yeah, let's do
Um,
it.
well, this isn't a question. It's more like a statement. It said donate to local boots on the ground orgs or offer to purchase stuff, supplies for them instead of giving cash. Well, that's, you know, I'm curious to see if there's like a rationale for not doing money, but I do know that a lot of, well, I do understand some of the rationale in the same way that you can run into, I guess, a homeless guy on the street and be like, you know, he looks like he's really in a bad way. He doesn't look like he's tweaking out. He looks like he's just really struggling. You know, can I buy this man a sandwich? Can we make sure that he has some sustenance so he can get to the next day and, you know, hopefully overcome whatever is in his way? That may be more effective than handing him $25, which could go to food, could go to a pack of beer or
Yeah.
however much, you know, that runs these days.
Yeah.
Which you need the food. You do need the food. Like, come on,
Yeah.
help this guy out. So I get that. Do you have any other rationale for that, or do you think I hit that one pretty
No,
good?
you hit the nail on the head, man. Like not in a cocky way, and this is not what that statement is meaning at all, but a lot of people reach out like, hey man, I want to send you like a free shirt or two, you know? Like, bro, I have shirt and swag that I sell. And when friends of mine ask for free swag, I'm like, bro, I'm not trying to be an asshole here, but you're now asking me to give you money,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that may be extreme, but like I try to buy every shirt that I have because that's my way of supporting the homies, you know?
Wow. Yeah.
And and like I know it's a small thing, like, you know, $25 for a shirt, whatever, but also when you have 20 different friends that are asking for a $25 shirt, I don't do math in public, but like that's a lot of money, right? Whatever
Yeah.
that adds up to. What is that for? What,
Don't
five?
even try.
So
But yeah, I got you. That's
support
that
the
is
homies on the ground, man. Give cash,
yeah.
buy a product. Like, dude, it's the way to do it.
You know, it's interesting. I didn't really used to value so much like, okay, let's, and certain relationships are still a lot of pro bono stuff back and forth. Like we support each other with, you know, effort and,
Yeah.
you know, shares and let's try to shout you out here or do this and that. And at the end of the day, it just kind of, it washes. Hopefully, you know, hopefully there's value exchanged. But I think that's the important thing is to actually exchange value and not just be like, hey, buddy, I see you are a big YouTuber now. Can I have a gun? What? What are you saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Or like, and again, this is not, I think we're all friends here. We know I'm not meaning it in a very negative way, but like
Yeah.
also when companies approach that may be smaller, they're like, hey, we want to send you free product, man. They may be doing that out of the kindness of their heart, but the ulterior motive is, hey, we want to blow the fuck up because he's on a YouTube channel,
Right.
right? Which, hey, I understand that, right?
That's the
You
game.
find value in that marketing. However, what's the return to me, man? Right? Like,
Right.
I have spent my entire life savings building this platform
Hmm.
that you're wanting to invest free product to then sell your product.
Right. And the
But I
exchange is
invested the
not
money to build it.
the exchange is not there like at
It's
all.
not there.
And at some point you have to decide like who do I want to work with? Like for me, I could easily do 100 free ad reads for Obsidian Tactics. I wouldn't care, you know. Wouldn't care. He's that guy. You know, if I called him literally crying, you know, I know he would be there for me. At least I
Yeah.
think so. Would you be there for me, buddy? You know? The
Fuck no.
right, like that guy. But on the other side, if literally name a brand, I try to be careful not to promote things that I've not really kind of spent some time with.
Yeah.
I saw a product once upon a time, and I was just like, "Oh, that looks super cool!" And it was actually a gimmick. It cost way too much. Like it was a lockbox of sorts, and it cost like $300, and it didn't really do anything. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I had to be honest about it in the video, and I kind of wish I didn't even get it in. Like I kind of
Sure.
wish we would just returned it like right away, or didn't even accept shipment, or not even started the conversations. because at a certain and I've had other conversations since then, but point being is some stuff is like a brand is hoping that maybe even as a smaller gun tuber myself, that maybe their video is the one, because any video can blow up, right? It
Yeah.
could be
Oh
on
yeah.
something stupid, right? Like I mentioned, like some of my weakest videos, like creatively and production wise, are the ones that have done the best, right?
Yeah.
And the idea is like, okay, well, you got a platform. I like the way this looks, and free video production, free marketing, free reviews. When really they should just ask if there's something that we can exchange. Like, hey, do you take money, or is this like a no money thing, or like how can we support you in a way that makes sense for you?
Yeah.
And if
And
it,
on your end, being able to disclose that, like, hey, yeah, man, like I do like your product. If you would like to get some ad space on our channel, here's the cost. But I also want the freedom to tell people that, right? And
that's
I think
huge.
that
I couldn't
that
imagine
makes it
not.
fair,
In fact, I
right?
think it's actually illegal to not share when you've had a product sent to you, or if you're being compensated to use a product. And I know a lot of guys in the gun space are bad about it, like really. I mean, every space. But you see enough Kim Kardashians getting sued for not disclosing that they were told to wear this certain perfume or
Sure.
drink this tea that makes you poop in your pants, you know, or whatever diet tea they're on these days.
Sure.
And maybe people get it, but a lot of guys, people I know, who I like, I'm just like, I don't see a hashtag ad on this, and I know for sure that you were paid to produce this. It's too high quality, and I know you don't do anything for free. So where it at?
Yeah. Yeah. Which to each their own, right? It is what it is.
Yeah,
But,
break what laws you want to break. I'm not the police.
right.
So, second to last, NRA Canon should do better. They're wasting money keeping Wayne in charge. I think we're going to keep dogpiling Wayne until this thing is over.
Yeah.
Ooh. Do you still feel that way
Oh,
about Scorpion? My feelings were hurt. Yeah, my guy Ray, he's got a kitted out Scorpion. I think he's got a can on it.
Ray, I love you, brother, but that gun is good for what the price is. Okay, direct blowback 9 mil PCC. But in my opinion, it is not the hottest thing since sliced bread. I think that a lot of that is the price point of it, which is awesome, right? Dude, that gun ran flawlessly. I've never had issues with one. But for a couple bucks more, I think you can get a far better product. And you're going to dump those couple bucks anyways by kitting out the Scorpion, by changing this in the Scorpion, by changing that in the Scorpion, when you could just go with the example you used, a B&T GHM9, right? So having said that, if that's your price range for a PCC and that's all you want, dude, more power to you. No one has any bad experiences with those guns. I just think that for what it is, it's like a little meh, you know?
That's right. Well, I've had a little time with the Scorpion, and they're kind of cool, especially if you can get them in full auto. Like at that
Yes.
point, you should not complain. You should not say a darn thing. You should just shoot your
Right.
full auto and shut up. But there are a lot of really cool PCCs on the market, right? If you go up to like a full like rifle caliber, you can get some really sick stuff like a 300 blackout this, or pay a heck of a lot more. You get yourself like a what do they call those from Q? Everything that they make super expensive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The honey
Um,
badger, sugar
I got
weasels,
you.
all
Yeah.
those things. I think sugar weasel's a bigger gun though. Hurt this man's feeling. Come on, bro. Ooh, here we go. And I'm gonna do this one first. Smart Shooters LLC. They make a sick rifle. I wish you guys could review it, but I know your content schedule's horrendous. Maybe one day.
We're booked out 6 months right now.
I bet. I bet. I mean, I'm looking at my schedule and I'm like, oh my gosh. But he said a lot of people want free stuff and will drive a company broke if they let it. Like,
Yeah.
if you said, I guess if you were making a rifle, or if you were making those watches and you were like, hey guys, we want people to review our watches, you just put it out there, I think people would start to try to take advantage of that and be like, "Ooh, people who never reviewed a thing in their life, well, I'll review it." you know, can I keep it
Yep.
though? So
Well, and I think that's the responsibility you have, because let's look in the mirror on this, right? Like,
Right.
it would be unfair of you to be like, man, I spend all this money making content and doing all this stuff. Give me free, right? Well, that company spent all the money on the R&D, on the testing, on the machines, on the engineer. Like, for you to then ask for free product all the time, every time, may not be fair also, right? And then that's where I think you need to drive and work towards a fair exchange of value for everyone involved, right?
Yeah.
That rifle, retails $2,300 to $2,500. Can I, as a YouTuber with my platform, give that money that they're giving me in the form of a rifle, like, pay that back in some regard, right? And I believe we've built a platform and a reputation that, yes, we can do that. So, like, I think that's an honest conversation you got to have with yourself.
And I'm going to say this, and hopefully is understood by everybody who's listening. If you create, if they send you a $2,500 rifle, what is that cost on the rifle in regards to everything? Because it's not just like what is the actual materials cost. It's actually what are we paying people, what are we scaling up for, and even the guy who's creating the company. What's he? How much does he have in on this? And if it
Yes.
fails, you know, is he going to lose his wife and family because he sent a rifle that he really couldn't afford to give up to a guy
Sure.
who's gonna do an okay job. It's kind of middling. He didn't promote it properly, and it's just not quite there. And that's a question I think we all have to ask ourselves. That's something I have to ask myself constantly: is okay, can I do a good enough job to justify the price? You know.
Yep. Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. And I think I would, if I was a company, I would want a YouTuber to ask themselves that too, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, he's poured his heart, soul, passion, time away from his family, everything into that rifle, right? It's not just a gun. Can I give some return on investment to him by doing my part to the best of my ability? And if you can look yourself in the mirror and say yes and go to sleep at night with that, I think that's what it's about, you know.
That's right. I 100% support that statement. Last question that we're going to take. I saw a few more, but some of those were answered earlier in the video. So if you guys want to watch the replay, that'll be sick. Last question, Chris. What's your thought on military gatekeepers? I'm not. Did you serve ever, Chris? Are you equipped to answer this question, or do you have an opinion that it doesn't matter what your career experience has been that you can answer?
Sure, sure. I may or may not be equipped. Someone else can argue that. I never served. I play tactical dress up in on YouTube, But I am a if anyone watches the channel, I try not to do it as much anymore. I am a military special operations nerd. I read books on World War II often, books on Vietnam, global war on terror books. I have many friends that served, whether it was from infantry all the way to tier one, highest of the highest level, right? And anywhere in between. Um, so getting to that, I used to be in the school of thought that if you're not training from a guy who's been in combat and how to be in a gunfight, you're doing it wrong. Okay. Now,
Mm-hmm.
as I've progressed and the industry has changed, and worked with many of those guys, dude, like the highest speed guys in the military, like the tier one guys, hire civilian professional shooters to come teach them how to shoot because they are the best in the game. They then take that and apply the tactics and the cool military stuff. But to learn how to run a gun, dude, they hire civilians 10 out of 10 because that's
Yeah.
what a civilian will get good at, right? And
Right.
then there's a trainer, Mike Pannone is his name. He's a
Mm-hmm.
firearms instructor. He's a Grandmaster pistol shooter, USPSA, and was at a tier one special operations unit. So he's done all of it. And you take someone's opinion like that, who says there should be no gatekeeping because the best shooters are civilians,
Mm-hmm.
and like, I take his opinion and some of those guys' opinion on that. I think that the gatekeeping stuff is a thing of the past. I think that the civilian training community is getting so close to working with so many military veterans that it's becoming muddied. And I think that's how it should be, man. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you didn't serve, but you just crushed the shooting standard. Huh, there might be something to that, man. And like, I'm not tooting my own horn here, but I get a chance to work with a lot of military and law enforcement with my previous job in the gun industry, right?
Yeah.
Again, not shooting my own horn here, but like, there's been courses I've been at where I've outshot half of the like SWAT cops that are there, right? And like, I'm not saying I'm some hot shit SWAT guy. It's just like, hey, there is no gatekeeping anymore because we have civilians that will outshoot some of the best military law enforcement shooters out there. So, in my
Yeah.
opinion,
Yeah, I get that, and I complete. It's interesting because I think there might be some guys who personally feel semi insecure. Like, man, like I'm a really good shooter. I understand the concepts that are necessary to teach to kind of keep the tradition alive. But because I haven't had to be in a traumatic situation,
yeah,
am I not am I not as equipped as I need to be to share this information? And personally, I you don't have to learn from somebody who's had to kill somebody how to kill somebody. These are concepts, basic
yes,
concepts. Like you don't have to like you go to nursing school, you don't have to literally save somebody's life to learn how to do it correctly. They can teach you,
yeah,
and then one day you will. But
yeah.
but that's the thing.
I think the other side of that too is, my buddies that have been in engagements and taken a life, I then go to them though and talk about that specific part of it,
Hmm.
right? Like, hey, I learned how to shoot from this guy, yada, 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 but I was in this scenario and I, unfortunately had this happen. I then go to my buddy who's also experienced that many times to help work through it, right?
Yeah.
Because he has a side of it that the other guy doesn't. But I think there's a
Right.
place for both.
Right. And I think you're correct. Obviously, um, somebody might argue, "Oh, well, you're not one of us. You're not in our brotherhood." What's that one guy, Medal of Honor recipient who,
Dakota.
yeah, Dakota Meyer, who said what he said, and then I hear somebody try to press him on it, and then he was like, "I didn't say that," and yeah, it's weird. But honestly, I really think we spend too much time trying to figure out why other people aren't as good as us, and instead of really trying to just lift people up and say like, hey brother, like I see what you're doing, like let's make you better. This is maybe a way that you can provide increased value. If you reduce this and do this better, I think we can help your students to become the best that they can be. Take it or leave it, but maybe think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. A great small example is like high port on a rifle versus low
Mm-hmm.
port, right?
Mm-hmm.
One tier one special operations unit, the Navy guys go high port. The Army tier one guys go low port.
Mm-hmm.
I have never been able to find a reason to go high port. Not one. Now, the Army guys tell me, well, if something happens and the gun were to fire high port and my buddy's right there, it's going to shoot him in the face. If I'm low port, it shoots him in the foot. Which one would you prefer to get shot in? And that's always their answer. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. And like, some of those guys, 20 years there at that unit, 20 years.
Yeah.
And multiple of them have told me, I never found a reason in my experience to ever go high port. So
Yeah.
that's a small little example. At the end of the day, my answer is this: do what works for you. If you can run it and justify it, cool. But to me, I'm going low port all the time, every time, no matter what. And there will be some arguments about that. That's okay. But again, at the end of the day, like if you can have your own opinion and stay in your own lane, I think that's okay. You know?
Yeah, I think so too. Man, there's a few other great comments in here. Not so much questions, but just admiring your stances on things, such as Smart Shooters LLC, great YouTuber and also manufacturer of the Rustic Arms rifle. Hey, I love hearing him say that it's not just a gun. As a manufacturer, I appreciate people who understand a gun is not just a gun. It is a lot of blood, sweat, tears, a lot of legacy, maybe some bad things, a lot of good things, families fed, and a lot of, otherwise. So I
Yeah.
can appreciate that, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Was there anything that you wanted to share? How can people find 1911 Syndicate? How can
Yeah.
people follow you specifically? Because,
Yeah, 1911 Syndicate on all platforms, Instagram, YouTube. You need real estate help, 1911syndicate.com. My personal Instagram is just Chris Blau, CHRASBLAU. No spaces, all lowercase. Um, and like, yeah, just I want to say thank you for even considering having me come onto your show, man. As someone who produces content, does all this YouTube gun content stuff, like, it means a lot to me, man. And on our initial phone call, I wanted to just thank you because we've had people come on the channel that don't take it very serious, and I am away from my wife, pouring thousands of dollars in blood, sweat, and tear into this, right? Same to you. You know, we had a previous phone call, and I wanted to make sure my whole setup was good to go because I appreciate the effort you're putting in, man. We're on a Sunday afternoon, which I don't care about. You just got home from church. We got families, we got wives, and we're here talking guns. And, just want to thank you for using your time and your platform to bring me on. So thank you.
Yeah, man, I definitely appreciate you taking the time to be here. Obviously, really appreciate the audience for being here with us live, and of course, the audience that wants to tap in with us after the fact on the podcast platforms and even just in the replay. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. This is pretty much a 2 hour conversation at this point. It will hit 2 hours by the time this thing is done. Obviously, I know that people have heard your heart. And as we're wrapping up, I just want to say thank you to just everyone who's ever supported the show, whether it's sharing it on social media or sharing it, with a friend via the group chat, whatever it is. Thank you guys so much. If you want to support directly, there's a few different ways you can support via the Patreon channel, patreon.com/Armed Atlas. That's a great way to do it. Or you can go buy something you've always wanted to buy, whether it's some sort of gear. There should be links down below. obsidiantactics.com, code Armed Atlas will get you free shipping, which is dope. Do that. And tune in next week because I think we're talking to, I don't want to say, but you'll see the announcement early this week. Turn on notifications so you can see when we schedule these live streams to go live. We've got a lot of really cool conversations coming up. But until next time, keep it costly.